So to date, I've read 1,874 books, and I'm in a Barnes & Noble in an undisclosed location. And I'm going to give you a little bit of advice on some books that I think you should read. And not all the books are going to be here because I normally read them on Audible. Because Audible's cheaper, you can download books for $11.97 per book on there. If you like holding a book in your hand, then this is the place for you. So the first book we're going to talk about right here is going to be Atomic Habits. Right? What is a habit? A habit is just a program that you build inside of yourself. Atomic habits are good habits that you should build, right? Easy way to build proven habits. This book is self-explanatory. It is very good. It is read by a lot of people. 2 million out of 7 billion isn't a lot, but this is definitely a book that I have read 3 times. So Atomic Habits, don't question it, pick it up, read it. It's really good. Specifically, if you have any bad habits or you're trying to make your habits better, it'll teach you how to deal with them. Now, sometimes these books that are sitting on the side might get overlooked, but Emotional Intelligence 2.0, this is also things that'll help you understand habits a little bit better, because a lot of people have a high IQ, but they have a low EQ. So understanding emotional intelligence is extremely important. Now, these 2 books, F blank your feelings and unblank yourself, these books are pretty much close to the same thing, but it's about understanding problems, which a bad habit would be a bad problem. Understanding how to get out of your head and live your life, same thing, changing your habits. So if you'd like to stack Atomic Habits Intelligence 2.0 on yourself and your feelings, that's a thumbs up. Now, I'm just kind of going shelf by shelf, just sitting in front of things, and I noticed that Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is one book that I'll read every single month. It is extremely important. A lot of people that I know that are successful read this book. They kind of treat it like a little bit of a Bible. I found one that was highlighted once before at a used bookstore, and it was probably the best thing I've ever found. I don't know who had it before me. But How to Win Friends and Influence People talks about a lot of stories that help you understand how to talk to people. Because in our world nowadays, we're losing a lot of our social interaction because of this square box. So this is a book that you're definitely going to want to pick up. You're definitely going to want to read more than once. And Dale Carnegie, if you don't know who Dale Carnegie is, you definitely want to check him out. And you can see that this book has been in print for 80 years. So just to give you a little bit of an example from here, there was some people smoking in an area where weren't supposed to be smoking. And what the person did was they walked over and said, hey, they brought cigars with them and said, hey, you guys shouldn't be smoking over here. Here's some cigars. In the future, can you smoke over there? So it's a way to interact with people without making them feel upset, without making them feel that you're trying to power trip on top of them. It goes over stories with people applying for places, banks. It's super good. So now, this is a book that I've had, Influence. It's kind of cool seeing them in the paper version. I don't often see them, that's why I come to these bookstores. But the book Influence teaches you about how you're influenced. So now, if you've read Atomic Habits, if you've checked out Emotional 2.0, if you've checked out Un-F Yourself, if you've checked out F Your Feelings, you're going to start to understand that feelings, emotions, habits are all this influence that has been happening around you in your life. Like what I always say is, who are you, right? You are who you believe you are. And what do you believe? You believe what you've been taught. And what have you been taught? Thoughts from others. So are you thinking, or are you just a combination of thoughts of others? Now, Influence is going to go over how you can influence people, and how you can influence people is how you have been influenced, right? It's not always conscious influence. A lot of it is subconscious influence based on the society that we live in. So definitely check out Influence if you're trying to learn a little bit more about how habits actually formed as well. So it gets a little bit deeper in the habituation, habit forming part of the human nature. Many of you may have heard of this book before, but it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, I would like to highlight an actual person for this book specifically. This guy's name is James Shorkey, known as Jim Shorkey in Pittsburgh. He owns an auto group. Now, he has a mindset program, which I always say, invest in others, right? People have taken their time to write these books to save me years of my life of going through the unknown and making things known. So if you look at Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, good author, this book specifically is going to teach you how simple it is to become successful, right? And to give you a little bit of a cheat sheet, it's basically finding something that you want to be good at and just doing it every single day and focusing on it over a long period of time, and you will eventually get really good at it. But Jim Shorkey, he goes over this for I think it's 45 days straight. He takes little pieces of this book and kind of goes over it and teaches you what he has taken away from it. Very successful guy. He's building something called Rethink You, which, please invest in others. If somebody built a program and it's something that I want to learn, I'm going to buy it, because you should be investing in yourself. Most people are going to spend $250 on random going out to eat this month, rather than spending $250 on a program that's actually going to help them change their lives. So Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, very good book to read. Now, if you're going to book stack here as well, because if you read one book, why not read 2 or 3 or 300? So take How to Win Friends and Influence People and take Think and Grow Rich and read both of those books multiple times. They're going to produce a very good symphony orchestra for your brain that's going to help you better perceive reality. Oopsies, still getting good at this recording thing. Now, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. This is the Navy SEAL. A lot of people, if they're not very emotionally intelligent, they're going to be upset by the way that he talks to you, but it's very forward in the way that he speaks. Master your mind, defy the odds, right? And now, Can't Hurt Me, like I said, Navy SEAL, so that's the badass of the world, right? So the mental thinking that it takes to do that is not normal in society. So you would benefit heavily from reading this book if you're trying to achieve a goal that has not yet been achieved by society. He likes to swear a lot, but not in there. If you ever watch his videos on Facebook or anything, he's going to swear a lot online, tell you, grow up, do all this other stuff. I give that book a definite yes. That's not the one that says make your bed in the morning, like that Admiral video that everyone saw online. You don't gotta make your bed in the morning. That's not what success is about. Even if they tell you to make your bed, I'm gonna tell you not make your bed, because you can be doing better things, like waking up and starting to read a book rather than making your bed. So Can't Hurt Me, become emotionally resilient. So if you're stacking these, right, Atomic Habits, Emotional Intelligence, F Yourself, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, you have Can't Hurt Me now as well. When you're stacking all these books together, they're all going to start to make more sense, and that's why you'll go back and reread all the books you've read, because now you're going to see things that you didn't see before. Like when they mention the word flow, there's a book called Flow. And when one book says you go into flow, if you've read the entire book about flow, you have this just massive bomb go off in your brain of understanding about, whoa, I know exactly what flow is. I read the whole book about flow, so that one chapter in that one book makes even more sense to you, and that's how you learn more. Now this book, I can teach you this book. It's literally just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then get up and go do what you're going to want to do. But if you're the type of person that likes stories, to learn about how other people have utilized a specific role in their life, I'm sure we're going to find the 10x rule somewhere, but this is the 5-second rule. And the 5-second rule is a great way to understand motivation, right? I am not always motivated to wake up and do the things that I do. I had some time here. I had about an hour. I'm getting some work done on my car, so I figured I'll come over to a bookstore and record some books. So the 5-second rule is just counting backwards from 5 and getting up and going and doing what you need to do. Not always because you want to do it, because some things we need to do that we don't want to do. I don't want to go to the gym every day, but I do, because I don't want to be 50, 60 years old suffering from issues. So check out Mel Robbins, check out the 5-second rule. It's a very good book to read. There's the 5-second rule, there's the 10x rule, there's the 3-second rule, or the 3-minute rule. There's a lot of books that count with rules, and hopefully we'll find them here. But if we don't, they're on my Audible, and at the end of this, you're going to see my Audible as well. Those are the books that I read on a multiple occasion. I have 2 Audible accounts because one is just filled and I can't even find stuff. So think like a monk, right? This guy was a monk. This book is very good. Train your mind for peace and purpose every day. Now, I'm not going to give this book away because it's going to teach you a lot about mindfulness, a lot about breathing, a lot about relaxing yourself, putting yourself in the best environment for yourself. But my favorite chapter in this book is on fear. This book, I'm not going to tell you anything about except that you should read it, because the opposite of our society is a monk, right? Monks are the opposite of what the normal modern American society is taught to be. So this is a book that you should read multiple times that's going to help you understand that the way that you think is not always the way that you have to think. Remember, Atomic Habits, Emotional Intelligence, being taught a thought. This is why you learn thinking. There's so many books, it's so hard to find them all. This one is my absolute personal favorite, probably on this entire shelf line of personal growth. This is The Untethered Soul, okay? Now, this is just a guide journal. We want to have the actual book, The Untethered Soul, which is probably going to be in another section. But The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer, this guy right here. He also has a book called, my bad, y'all can see my face. He also has a book called The Untethered Soul and Living in a Place of Surrender. So The Untethered Soul is going to teach you about the voice inside of your head, right? Those thoughts that you think. Remember, where do those thoughts come from? This is why emotional intelligence is extremely important, because if you understand the thoughts you have, then and only then can you actually change them. So The Untethered Soul is a really good book that's going to explain to you about the voice inside of your head, not being constantly tethered to the things that happen around you, because they're always going to be happening around you. I'm standing in a bookstore in Kentucky and I've never been here before. So trust me, things are happening all over the world instantaneously. Don't worry too much about them. But obviously here, like... Alrighty, so Malcolm Gladwell, you've got Blink right here, you've got Talking to Strangers, you've got The Tipping Point, which is a really good one. Best way to explain The Tipping Point, you remember in school, I'm not sure if they still teach this or not, but it was the British are coming, right? That's an example of a tipping point in a society where something is possibly believable, is happening, people are saying it, and they believed it, and that saved a lot of lives. So The Tipping Point is a really good book. Blink, I'm not sure which one is that one. That one's Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. That's by somebody else. But Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow in the book Blink, I don't know if I'm going to find that one here, but those are books that you're going to want to stack together, right? Talking to Strangers and How to Win Friends and Influence People are books you're going to want to stack together, because Talking to Strangers, I think that is the book. There was somebody who was pulled over and put in jail wrongly and like committed suicide a couple days later. That was specifically stating a story about a cop. I think that's that book. I'm sorry, I've read so many that I don't remember which ones are which, but I'm pretty sure. And Blink, this is like the power of thinking without thinking. And then if you read Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow, that's going to teach you about System 1 thinking and System 2 thinking, which we do process our thoughts in different ways. We have the immediate, and then we have the analytical, logical, time-taking process. We have our limbic brain, which is our emotional response, which is just like we act off of our emotions, and then we have our prefrontal cortex, where we actually process our thoughts. So Blink, very good book. Like, how quickly can you make the right choice? And then you understand your System 1 and System 2 thinking. The tipping point, understanding where does the scale actually tip to your favor or the favor of another. And this is where feelings, like where is your tipping point with anger? Where is your tipping point with happiness? Like where is your brain at? And then Talking to Strangers. And then also Outliers. It's another book right here by Malcolm Gladwell. That book's okay. That just talks about kind of stories of success from places where you wouldn't think success would come from. Like Kevin Hart, for example. If you read his book called The Decision, he talks. It's a funny book. He's obviously a comedian. There's a lot of great points in it, but it just talks about like, does not matter where you come from. Like you're alive, you are conscious, and you can think. So you can literally do anything you want in this world and nothing is stopping you. Nothing stops you except this. Inside of your brain, your own brain. You literally stand in your own way. And there's a lot of books you'll see in personal growth that say get out of your own way. Those ones, I didn't highlight those because they're very self-explanatory. It's like stop being so scared to do stuff. The Untethered Soul is a good one that's going to help you not have self-defeating behaviors. And I suggest finding every cognitive behavioral therapy book that you can find and read them. I would say after you read probably 15, 20 of them, you're going to have a relative understanding on how to fix your own brain. And I'm not saying your brain needs fixed, but there is so much knowledge out there that will immediately change the way that you see the world once you learn it and accept it. Because how do you know? See, the thing is, you don't know. None of us know. We only think we know. So I'm not usually one that will read a book that somebody tells me to read just because I guess I'm selfish and narcissistic when it comes to reading, because I like reading my own books. But The Body Keeps Score is a pretty good book. It goes over a lot of, our emotional issues. Like I have had massive trauma in my life because I was raised in a very shitty environment. I wasn't taught anything. I was abused physically, emotionally. I didn't get taught anything intellectually. So I was in emotional support classes. Literally in high school, I was in special classes because I couldn't do the normal course load of other kids because my home life was just so messed up. So The Body Keeps Score, the reason I read this book is because I knew I had trauma, and it was about healing from trauma. And a lot of healing from trauma takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of effort. But when you heal from trauma, that's where all the beauty comes from in the world. It's called depth, right? If you've never had bad experiences in your life, you can't truly see the beauty, right? Bliss, like what is bliss? You know, and if you want to learn more, like read The Body Keeps Score, learning about trauma, and then watch the movie called Bliss. And this is going to teach you what it's like. Like you truly can't see the beauty in the world if you've never saw the bad, right? You got to know the bad and understand to be able to see the good. Like sometimes just sitting in a park on a bench listening to birds chirp is the most beautiful thing ever. But you can't see that, right? Not always. I mean, I didn't. I guarantee you I didn't. I would just boom, be like, where's all the girls at inside of the dating apps? I'm going to find them and go talk to them. Like, I was lost. So, trauma, Body Keeps Score, mind, brain, and body. This is going to take forever. About 15 minutes in here. So I'm just going to pop off some books over here that you should read. So check it out. All right, Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza is the guy that talks about like reprogramming, how common people become uncommon. So Becoming Supernatural is definitely a book you're going to want to read. The Power of Now. Think about it. You got past, present, future. The present is the past as a moment from now, as the previous book I just showed you is now the past. And the next book I'm going to show you is going to be the future. So The Power of Now is about acting now. And you're going to see Osho, right? Osho doesn't have a lot of books in the bookstore. He has a lot more books online. They're very short, but I would suggest never questioning reading his books because they're so good. All right, so this brings us to health, wellness, diet, and nutrition. That's probably one of the most important parts about actually changing your life. And the very first thing that you can start doing is called the Wim Hof method, right? So now, who's Wim Hof? You got that question, right? Some old guy with some snow on his face. What's that? Is that powder? Is that cocaine? No, that's snow. So now to explain Wim Hof, this is a guy that lives in Iceland. This is the foreword of this book is actually by Elissa Epel, who wrote the book called The Telomere Effect. That's Elizabeth Epel and Alyssa Blackburn. They're two PhDs who found the telomere, which is with our DNA health. We'll talk about that. I don't think that book is actually going to be here. If I can find it, I'll show you it, but it's on my Audible. So the Wim Hof method, right? This is a breathing exercise that activates your autonomic nervous system, right? So anybody who suffers from autoimmune, anybody who suffers from pro-inflammatory conditions, this is a breathing exercise combined with the cold. And when we go outside in the cold, we shiver, right? So we think, oh no, shivering's bad. It's not a very good feeling. But when you do this breathing exercise, it switches you from shivering thermogenesis over to brown fat, so you actually don't get cold, and your immune health goes through the roof. What they did inside of the studies was they injected this guy with E. coli, and about 400 participants all had negative side effects, but he didn't. And then they took 12 random participants from this study. They all taught him his method, and they also didn't experience symptoms the next time that they injected the coli in that test. So this guy has been tested to the ends of the earth, like in ice for like days, hiked Mount Kilimanjaro in his shorts, did a marathon in the summer with no water, nothing, pushing the human to its potential. But the Wim Hof method is just a really cool breathing exercise. It's super good for depression and anxiety. And when our bodies go through a fear response or an anxiety response without us consciously choosing it, a different part of the brain will activate. So when you do this, you're activating a different part of your brain. You're allowing yourself to have that fear. You're allowing yourself to have that anxiety so you can process it differently, and then you can control it. So when you see this guy right here, Wim Hof, definitely check it out. It's belly breathing exercise. Breathing is good. All right, Why We Sleep is another really good one. This is by Matthew Walker. He traveled for like 25 years, but this is a study on sleep. Now, to give you a background, I was the person sleeping probably 4 hours, eating a whole bunch of caffeine and a whole bunch of junk food before I actually slept. That's where like a lot of depression and anxiety is going to stem from, because you're just ruining your hormones, you're killing your gut microbiome. There's so many bad things that happen. But in his TEDx talk, just a little bit of a preface for this book and why you want to read it is because, if you're not sleeping 8 hours, you're probably 10 years older than your hormones. That's like the first thing. He's like, that's the best thing that happens, is that you're actually 10 years hormonally older than you actually are if you're not sleeping properly. So Why We Sleep, that is a book that you need to read. Like the Wim Hof method will change your life. It'll make you so much more healthier. Sleeping 8 hours a night, you will feel so much better. Because if you're not eating enough, that's why we're in the diet section over here. Like if you're not eating enough, your body's gonna wanna sleep more. And if you're sleeping more, it's because there's an issue going on in your body. So read the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. You can check out his TEDx talk that he actually has. I think it's a TEDx talk. I don't even know anymore. There's just so many videos inside of my brain. But Why We Sleep, New York Times bestseller. It doesn't really matter about that stuff. Never read a book based off of it saying it's a bestseller. That doesn't mean that it's going to best suit you as a person. So if you're not sleeping 8 hours, read this book, and I guarantee you, you will start to have a bedtime. Like, I thought bedtimes were lame, and I thought staying up late was cool until I read this, and I'm like, sorry guys, can't come out, got to go to bed. And people are like, you're lame. And I'm like, I'm not going to be lame when I'm 40 and healthy. So now, Stephen Guthrie, this was on impact theory, right? He talks about a lot of stuff with health and food. It's a very, very good author in general, but the books, so you got longevity paradox, you've got energy paradox, and then you're also going to have a book called the plant paradox, which is probably floating around somewhere inside of here. I can't really see it. It's actually right here. Sorry, found it. So there's a plant paradox quick and easy, there's a plant paradox cookbook, and then the plant paradox book should be floating around somewhere in there. But the reason you're going to want to read these books is because food, right? And to give you a little bit of a little nugget here, people know that celiac, right? People, like, sometimes people can't have carbohydrates, they can't eat some things like that because they have celiac disease, right? So there's similarities between what he talks about eating and it causing with certain foods. Certain foods humans are not supposed to eat, and when we do eat them, they can cause issues. But yeah, he's got a whole practice, a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on. That's well above my knowledge level. All I say is Stephen Guthrie, if you see his books, he's a good author. That won't steer you in the wrong direction. So let's see what books we have here. There's going to be a lot of books on the ketogenic diet. Keto's really good for a lot of people because carbohydrates, specifically with brain function, when you're eating carbs and sugars, you're going to have a lower fuel source. So that means your carbohydrates are about 4 calories per one, and your fats are 9. So you're burning more effective, cleaner fuel. So if you've never tried keto, I can send you, if you're interested, just send me a message and I will give you a link to a video that goes over the entire grocery store for 33 minutes on how to actually eat the ketogenic diet, but based on chemical consumption. Because it's not always about your calories, it's about your chemicals. And specifically when you're eating keto, you are going to obviously not need food as often. You're not going to have that constant hunger, like your ghrelin hormone goes down, a whole bunch of fun stuff happens. But here's another. So Super Life, this is just going to talk about superfoods, right? What foods do you eat to be healthy? How do you stay healthy? These two books are going to be a stack that you're going to want to read. How Not to Diet and How Not to Die. Because, like, my diet used to consist of Flaming Hot Cheetos, Doritos, burritos, Slim Jims, the convenience store, soda, Monsters, all this garbage food that kills your gut microbiome. So when you read these books, you're going to learn a lot more about your gut microbiome. It's like same thing with like plant paradox. So like people might suffer from allergies. Oh, here we go. Here's this fun one. Sorry, little side note. This is the Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung. Dr. Jason Fung is a nephrologist that lived in Canada, and he's actually pioneered the reversal plan. You also have the diabetes code, so that's just a little bit more of an explanation on for people that have type 2 diabetes. The obesity code just kind of goes over how the body processes fuel, how it gains weight, how it can lose weight, what are all the fun processes with autophagy that cleans the brain. And you're going to learn about fasting in these books, right? And the best thing to understand with fasting is that it boosts your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is miracle growth for your brain. It boosts neurogenesis, which is the birth of new brain cells in your memory and learning center. It increases plasticity, which is the formation of your brain cells. It triggers autophagy, which cleans your brain. And people who are type 2 diabetics are about 50% more likely to develop dementia. And dementia is an issue of plaques being built up in your brain because you can't form new synaptical connections. So you really just can't think as quick as other people. And if I talk too fast, it's just because you can read books on Audible on 3.5 speed. And that's how, if you ever want to get to reading a book a day, you literally just download Audible and start reading books on there. So there's going to be all of these. You're going to find these as boom. So if you didn't want to read, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, you could just read the book on how to actually cook the foods. And that's a little bit of a cheat right there, that you can just find the foods in here And then unless you really want to know the knowledge, you can just go straight to the cookbook and trust that those are good. But I'm the type of person that wouldn't trust somebody unless I've read their books and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be a great cookbook. And then this is the complete guide to fasting, like intermittent fasting, alternate day fasting, extended day fastings. If you have any health or brain or any issues that you're trying to solve in your body, you definitely are going to want to learn about fasting. Your intermittent fasting is going to be good for people who don't want to lose muscle mass. It's called intermetabolic flexibility. You're going to switch from your carbs and sugars over to your ketones. If you're trying to lose a lot of weight, intermittent fasting is not where you want to go. Your alternate day fasting is best, at least based on research or what I've been told, is because your alternate day fasting is going to keep your leptin, your fat burning hormone, as optimal as possible. So you have a day where you're increasing your leptin, the next day you have that fat burning supercharge all day not eating, the next day you eat after you exercise. So comparing like feast, fast, feast, there's a book somewhere about that. I don't know where it's at, I haven't read it, just because I knew it was going to repeat the information that I already knew. But it's about feasting and fasting being probably one of the best models. And then extended fasts are more for like if you have skin problems, if you're really trying to get yourself on a kickstart for health, like 3-day fast. Some people fast for 21 days. Some people fast for longer, but fasting is just extremely healthy. It's good for the gut. And that's where all of these books that you're going to find in health and wellness start talking about. They're going to start talking about your gut, right? The gut is the brain, right? It's called an HPA axis, so it connects your belly to your brain. That's why when you see this one right here with the Wim Hof method, the Wim Hof method is a belly breathing exercise, and that is stimulating the vagus nerve, right? So belly to brain, think vagus nerve, okay? And then they don't have those books here, at least I don't think they do. I didn't see any, and finding one of those is going to be hard because they're not this popular author. I don't think so, at least. But there's books on the vagus nerve, and learning about your vagus nerve is extremely important. Like when you eat junky food, you feel junky because your belly is not getting the right nutrients, so your brain is just like, well, I'm gonna turn off today. All right, so now we're over in the business section, and Dare to Lead. So Brene Brown, 2 books by Brene Brown that you're gonna wanna check out is definitely Dare to Lead, and the other one is The Power of Vulnerability. Now, remember what I said about the 5-second rule. Here's the 10x rule by Grant Cardone. So 3 good books to stack with Grant Cardone, and I don't think they're all going to be over here. If they are, I'll find them here in a second, because now we're over in the business part. But the 10x rule, right? This is where you people literally, and yourself, myself, many people I know, you underestimate the amount that you're going to have to do to get to where you want to be. So if you think of this, like if you send 10 emails, that's cool. Send 100 emails, because this is going to increase your likelihood of success. This whole book, right, says the only difference between success and failure is literally the amount of work that somebody does. Like my car is getting worked on. I'm taking my time to record this video for books for people so they can also learn, because there's ideas in your mind that you're going to want to make money off of, you're going to want to achieve in your lifetime, and you're going to severely underestimate how much it's going to take to be successful. People are going to hate you. People are going to love you. I get both messages all the time. People are like, oh, you're so weird reading books in the bookstore. And then you get people who are like, thanks so much, dude. I read this book. It changed my life. So 10X Rule, Grant Cardone. There's another one called Sell or Be Sold. Like you're selling yourself at all moments. And then there's another one called, If You're Not First, You're Last. So those are 3 really good books by Grant Cardone, and let's find another one. So this is kind of one that goes along with like How to Win Friends and Influence People, the Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. These are the books that are like older books, but the psychology still makes sense, like over 40 million copies sold. So definitely check out this book too as well. Okay, so all 3 of these books by Simon Sinek, these are an absolute, I'm just saying these are all must reads, but I guarantee you these books will change the way that you think, okay? So start with why. I figured why not be a person that reads 300 books a year? I don't know many people that do that. I've never met one, so I figured I would start to do it. So that was one of the things that I started with. Why not, right? So now leaders eat last. Like there's too many people that are managers, CEOs, people that are just in these power positions that forget that they're not the person that leads the way, right? They're the person that should be in the back of the pack, making sure that everybody is successful, right? Leaders eat last. Like I fast anyways. So when we're talking about leaders eat last, this is exactly what you're going to want to do. It's why some people are better at what they do and some are not. And you'll see that it says the author on the top here, start with why, right? How every leader inspires everyone to take action. Like, why not? Why can't we do things differently? And then you have The Infinite Game, also by Simon Sinek. So you're going to want to read all three of these books, because The Infinite Game, right? Think about Blockbuster. If you're born in the 90s, the 80s, you know about the movie places that you would go to and you would rent a movie from a physical location, right? Now we have Netflix, Blockbuster, we have so many applications out on the internet that are going to allow us to just watch a movie at home. So The Infinite Game was the movie watching, the consumption of movies for people. And that transitioned from a physical process to an online process, and that whole business went bye-bye. So that's part of The Infinite Game. At any moment, any player can enter the game and cause massive disruption to the market. So Simon Sinek, very intelligent person. I definitely suggest watching a lot of his YouTube videos, but at least read those three books. So same thing, remember book stacking, right? You're going to want to read Start With Why first. You're going to want to read The Infinite Game after that. And then you're going to want to read Leaders Eat Last. Just so you have your why, you have your how, and then you have the let's actually do this part. Because being a leader is not for everybody, but once you learn enough and you understand enough, you can be very good at it. All right, so Jordan Belfort, if you haven't watched the book, The Wolf of Wall Street, this is basically the book that breaks down the explanation of that movie. And straight line selling is exactly the scene that you'll see from there whenever he's selling a stock. So you can also look up online Stratford Oakmont, a sales script. The Way of the Wolf is just a really good book that's going to help you understand. Same thing with like the 10x rule. This is where you're going to want to stack books. So like Sell or Be Sold, The Infinite Game, Start With Why, The Way of the Wolf, Sell or Be Sold. All of these books, when you combine them together, it's just sales at the end of the day is manipulative, right? All the biggest companies in the world are manipulating dopamine inside of other people. Depending on what you're selling, it might be a dopamine high for people, it might be a dopamine, type situation. But right here specifically, this is like a straight line sell. So like cold calling, when you pick up the phone and call, do you say the same thing to all the people that you say it to? Me personally, yes. I ask them if it's a bad day to talk about robots, because if it is a bad day to talk about robots, they're gonna say, yeah, it's a bad day. But I got that yes, instead of saying, is today a good day? No. So that's from Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. That is a international terrorist negotiator that I don't know if that book's here or not. It's in my Audible account. So yeah, don't see that one, but maybe we will. But anyways, Jordan Belfort, very good salesperson to learn from if you're trying to sell, and if you're trying to actually build your own business, you're going to need to know how to sell. So definitely read 10x Rule, definitely read The Way of the Wolf, and we'll find more as we go. Yeah, speaking of Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, it is right here, yellow and blue. Like I said, FBI terrorist negotiator. He's going to teach you conversational mirroring, and how to mirror a person would just be literally repeating the last three words that they said. And I'd be like, 3 words? And I'd be like, yeah, it's like the last 3 words of a sentence. So it's like a ninja psychology that not a lot of people are aware of. And if you're going to read Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference, that's more or less like phone negotiation. You're going to want to start learning body language, because you can tell. Example of body language for you is like people's feet, right? So if somebody's in a conversation and their foot's pointing this way, they want to leave the conversation. The person wants to go in whatever direction their foot points at. So all of this stuff is super valuable to know, because then you can tell where you are in the world and who you're around and how much they actually like you or not. And then the Never Split the Difference is more like kind of not good. It's more like manipulative, where I can repeat words if you tell me something and I don't understand it, to get more information out of a person, and they don't even know what's happening. Literally, you'll watch him talk to people, and he's talking to them about mirroring, and they'll mirror him, and he's like, you just did it, didn't you? And he's like, yeah. He's like, it felt weird. He's like, but I didn't even notice it. So Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Good book. I didn't even have a dad, so reading Rich Dad Poor Dad is really going to help you out. And just a little more on Rich Dad Poor Dad, it's like my rich dad would say, when you get a paycheck, you basically give up, because your paycheck is kind of like your, I worked 8 hours, I got my paycheck, and now I'm just going to do nothing with the rest of my day. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book that you definitely want to read. Now, same thing with like book stacking, right? These are going to be the ones that you're going to want to stack with Rich Dad Poor Dad. So like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Then How to Win Friends and Influence People. The Infinite Game, Start With Why. Chris Voss Never Split the Difference, the 10X Rule. When you read these in sequential order, like I wish I would have known to read them in sequential order, like this book makes sense to this book that actually expands on this book that helps you understand this book. Books. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whenever you get a chance to read that book, it is a definite must read. Because I didn't start like investing or doing anything financially intelligent until the age of 26, and I'm now 31 in a way better place. So you can do it too, trust me. Forgot to record an outro, but here's the best advice that I can give you for your life. Time, space, energy, or time, energy, space, however you want to classify them. The space that you're in is because the energy that you have that took time to acquire that. So if you want to reverse anything in your life, spend time, absorb energy, and you'll create your own space, right? That's all you have to do. So I spent my time reading every single day, all day. The energy that I was absorbing was intelligent people in the world, at least intelligent people based on the factor of I had no understanding of what education was, because emotional support classes. That took me to this space where I am literally a plethora of books, and I am so happy because when problems are presented in my life, I have situational awareness to solve them of myself. You cannot know everything, but you can know yourself. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. It's better than a YouTube video or watching Netflix or something like that that's teaching you nothing. At least that's what I believe, and that might sound narcissistic. But yes, I am biased when it comes to learning in books because they have changed my life. So, see you in the next video.